The night in the world of Sprunki was always filled with sounds, rhythmic beats, melodic tones, and chaotic improvisations. Durple and Oren were inseparable, creating music together, filling the dark streets with electronic echoes. But this time, something was wrong. Durple noticed that the surrounding sound had changed. He could no longer hear Oren's familiar rhythm. Instead, the air was filled with a strange, low-frequency hum. The purple dragon froze, his dark violet horns trembling slightly from the eerie vibration. He turned to his friend, but Oren looked different. His orange body had paled, and his antennae twitched nervously. "Do you hear that?" Durple asked, but even his own voice sounded muffled. "That's not my music," Oren murmured, stepping back. Suddenly, a distorted sound tore through the darkness, rippling across the ground and walls, leaving behind blurred, trembling traces. Durple felt a strange numbness creeping inside him. The vibrations were now within him, pulsing in his very core. He took a step forward, but the sound that escaped his mouth was no longer the short, trumpet-like note he usually made. This was something else, distorted, droning, almost mechanical, like a sinister echo that did not belong to him. Oren flinched. "Durple, are you okay?" Oren's voice was filled with concern, but Durple could not answer. His fin-like ears began to change, sharpening like blades. His horns stretched, cracking as deep purple light seeped from within. He could feel something awakening inside him. The music of Sprunki, once a source of joy, now played like a haunting symphony. Durple stepped toward Oren, but his friend backed away. His bright yellow headphones suddenly sparked, and the rhythm he had always followed began to crumble. "Durple, stop!" Oren yelled, but Durple couldn't. The rhythms tore through him, fusing into something new. His eyes flickered with neon light, and a distorted sound burst from his chest, filling the space around him. Sprunki had never heard anything like this before. The world spiraled into chaos. And in that moment, Durple realized he was no longer who he once was. He had become something else. A monster born from music and terror. And Oren? He could only watch as his friend disappeared into the abyss of distorted sound, becoming a living nightmare, an echo that would haunt the nights of Sprunki forever. Days passed, but the world of Sprunki never returned to its former self. Once vibrant streets had now sunk into silence, where only faint, distorted fragments of melody whispered from nowhere. Oren wandered alone, searching for a way to bring Durple back, but every attempt only led him deeper into the eerie void his friend had left behind. One night, following the weak remains of a bass pulse through the abandoned alleys, he stumbled upon something unexpected, a faint glow flickering in the darkness. Purple. It was moving. "Durple?" Oren whispered, his voice trembling. The glow pulsed in response. A shape began to emerge from the shadows, familiar, yet wrong. Durple was there, but his form had changed even more. His body had elongated, his movements unnatural, and his once lively eyes were now empty black voids filled with shifting light. The sound coming from his throat was a broken symphony of distorted beats layered chaotically on top of each other. Oren stepped back, his heart pounding. "You have to fight this, buddy. Remember our music, the rhythm, the harmony." For a moment, something inside Durple flickered, a hesitation. The distorted noise softened slightly, as if his old self was struggling to break free. Oren saw his chance. He grabbed his headphones, the same ones that had always kept the rhythm steady, and gently placed them on Durple's jagged, trembling head. One beat, a steady pulse, the sound of their first melody together. Durple convulsed. His body cracked, flickering between his monstrous form and the friend Oren once knew. The battle was real, a war raging inside him, but the corruption was too strong. A final deafening wave of sound burst from Durple's chest, throwing Oren to the ground. When he lifted his head, his friend was gone. Only a distant echo of his voice remained, distorted and stretched, fading into the depths of the soundscape of Sprunki. Oren sat there, clutching his headphones, realizing the truth. Durple was lost, but maybe, just maybe, he could still be saved. The silence of Sprunki did not last. It was replaced by something much worse. A new sound, deep, overpowering, and unnatural, rolled through the city like a wave. Oren felt it before he heard it, a pressure in his chest, a whisper that did not belong to any rhythm he knew. And then he saw him. A figure emerged from the darkness, tall and motionless, entirely black, as if the light itself refused to touch him. He wore a top hat matching his void-like form and a single white tie, sharp as a blade, contrasted against his empty darkness. But the most terrifying part was his face, a human face, detailed and real, yet impossibly out of place in the world of Sprunki. Oren's breath caught in his throat. Who are you? The figure did not respond. Instead, a sound erupted from the air around him, a voice layered upon itself, as if thousands of whispers spoke at once. I am black. The final note, the silence that follows. Oren shivered. There was something wrong about Black, not just his appearance, but his presence. It was as if he did not belong to this world, as if he had stepped out of something else entirely. And he was here for a reason. You took him, didn't you? You took Derpal. Oren's voice wavered with anger and fear. Black tilted his head, his expression never changing. Number he took himself. The song has changed, little Sprunki, and so must you. Before Oren could react, Black lifted a hand. The world around them warped. The very sound of Sprunki bent and twisted, becoming something unrecognizable. Oren felt his own rhythm slipping, his melody unraveling. The air thickened with echoes of lost voices, merging into an unnatural harmony that made Oren's head spin. Colours twisted, lights flickered, and the familiar streets of Sprunki morphed into something unearthly. Oren clenched his fists. Number he wouldn't let Black win. He still had his music, his rhythm. This was not just a battle for Derpal anymore. This was a battle for all of Sprunki. And Black had already started playing his final symphony.